The cash crisis worse. Talking about Venezuela once again.
Systemic important banks. They removed the 1,000 doing this thing on here called monetary All right, we are connected for the Tuesday edition of the news update. And as always, looking forward to sharing my 2 cents on a variety of subject matter. And from the looks of things, the seesaw action of metals is determining the increased volatility that we're seeing more and more. And it's picking up to the point where it's hard to hide. And that, my friends, makes it worth my time to connect this morning and share my 2 cents on a variety of things. And it's going to be a doozy. And as always, for those who are plugged in, never know who might be new in the community, want to welcome you. If you are a first-time viewer, definitely let me know where you're watching from in the chat. If you're a returning viewer, definitely let me know where you're watching from. And also, what are you guys keeping your eyes on? There are many narratives, many things that are pulling at our attention. And I want to make sure I focus on what's front and center, which is everything to do with this instrument here, as it is the weapon of choice, as well as the instrument that will be ultimately used to help restructure, reboot the system as we've known it. And so gold and silver, true tried and tested, is telling a different narrative. But the pressures to get physical, the 1,000-ounce bars, is causing a lot of issues between the LBMA and the Crimex. And of course, those that don't have it, you're going to be left out. And those that have it, you're going to be better positioned. So it's going to be interesting. But for those who are plugged in, let me know where you're watching from. Hit that like button, subscribe. And if you find anything of value throughout this live stream here, then feel free to share it so more people can get plugged into an alternative perspective, because that's what the world needs. Less lies, more contrarian viewpoints as to what's happening. So want to jump into it, man. Let me make sure everything is flowing smooth on my end here. Don't want to leave anybody out. Want to make sure that everybody can hear me, see me, and go from there. And so let me make sure I'm streaming. Trying to do a lot all at one time makes it very challenging, but I'm going to do the best I can to make it work. So let me see if I'm going here. And I am. So let's make it work. Let's not waste any time. So markets opened up. Or markets, for the most part, closed from the LBMA down and opened up here in the Western Hemisphere, surging, but then down again, surging, get down again. But yet, I remember over the last couple of weeks talking about the difference between gold and the silver rally. And at that time, gold was really, incrementally week by week, new highs. Silver was still lagging. And now silver's caught up, and it has, as far as the momentum and the pressure behind it, has surpassed gold to the point where we saw $53.50 as of early morning, today. And of course, literally, they slammed it down $4 and it went seesaw action. And then the Crimex opened up, tried to take it down, but the Crimex couldn't do it. So now it's trending back up to where it's $51.69. And I'm seeing a lot of commentators on social media space sharing their 2 cents, basically talking about the inability of the futures contracts to be able to manipulate the markets, given that the futures are lower. The future price is lower than a current spot. And so the goal is to get that backwardation back in alignment, and so that these contracts can be settled at a more reasonable price before more of the bullion banks and those that have been shorting everything take a hit. And I'd imagine the hit has to be in the several billions that people will have to come up with in order to cover some of their losses. But once again, we got the crypto sector down, more speculation on the recent drawdown. And of course, as I mentioned, I said this, I'm like, definitely there were people who had the president's ear, and it looks like the people who benefited most might have been his children, to whose surprise. But lots of speculation, lots of tinfoil type stuff. But once again, in this current world of uncertainty and monetary madness, anything goes. That's why I don't leave anything unsaid or any stone unturned when it comes to trying to find out who's controlling what and who's manipulating who and who's getting paid. Where are the funds flowing? Who's getting all these big bread as this wealth transfer occurs? That's what I'm concerned with. So all right. Beer Light Broker says, Mike, I'm rich now. We got Mark from South Florida. What's up, my friend? James checking in. How you doing, man? Good to see you. Yeah. So want to get back to some more live streams if I can. And as always, I know a lot of people want to hear that good news. So I make sure to put the good news, which is the daily devotional, on the community tab. So go check it out, read it for yourself. And hopefully you're spiritually charged up, because everything is, it's everything we're witnessing. At the end of the day, it's all about politics. Christ is king. His kingdom is coming. It's already here in the form of his spirit. And it's just the time in between of trying to bring more people into the family is what I'm also trying to do with the devotion. So hopefully if you're a born again believer, then you're on the right side of this transition, and you're doing your part, as well as, trying to share the good news as well. So, Had to get that in there real quick. But I want to just keep moving, man. I got lots of tabs, lots of things I want to touch on. And yeah, lots of people are sharing their 2 cents. I want to definitely get mine in as well because ultimately, as I mentioned, rethinking the dollar is what it's all about. And it's more so being able to take whatever you do have in disposable income, redeeming these things while you still can at a rate where you can get the most bang for your buck. That's what it boils down to. Okay, so we got to look at the crypto space because that's where everything is being steered towards. And I believe that there will be another correction that will not be um, an intentional crash based upon a tweet or a post from the president. It's going to be actual market response to the probability of the Federal Reserve. Right now, everybody's waiting on Jerome Powell to share his insight in forecasting what he foresees, whether it's going to be 2 cuts, no cuts, 3 cuts, whatever. Because if they don't cut, it's going to crash. And when they do cut, it's going to surge. And so right now, literally, everything is hinging upon Jerome Powell's upcoming little speech that he's going to give today, just shining his light on the health of the economy. And so I do see a drawback in everything because no matter what, I do believe that this narrative that they're trying to paint, it's not going to hold up. And that's where silver comes into play because silver literally is the pin that will explode all this. And for those who have been paying attention, those that are positioned, you'll be less impacted than those who have no clue. But then again, the reset must continue. And that's why you have to look at the crypto space because that's where they want us to be steered towards. And it will happen because we have the White House right now moving Bitcoin around. That's concerning. We got BlackRock dumping Bitcoin. So definitely people are paying attention. So as of right now, to go from $115,000 a couple hours ago down to 110 up to 111, seesaw action there. Everything was puking for the most part. But one thing that is doing quite well or better than most people would expect is the fact that amongst all the volatility in the world, we have bond yields taking a little bit of a dip. Therefore, there are people who feel that these instruments still carry value because they are the reserve and they are the most liquid. And so liquidity is an issue. So people are literally looking to race into debt instruments, knowing that they're not going to be able to get back what they put in, but that's how the system goes. And as a result of that, we have the Dixie, the dollar has over the last month has been trending up. So a stronger dollar is not in favor of what this president would like to see because they need a weaker dollar for their benefit. And so we'll see how this plays out. But once again, the debt market is the focal point of the liquidity race, and so dollars are still of importance to a lot of people. And that's why gold and silver, I think, is going to be a benefit in the end. Okay, so let me just check in. We got the S&P 500 right now. We got the Magnificent Seven, in the red. Not looking too good for equities because wherever those big red blocks go, everything else that's in the green that really has no significance will ultimately follow. So you can have some of these. All this can be around all the big seven. All the equities around the big seven can be bright green. But then again, them boys up there in red stay red and go deeper red. It'll overshadow all that other green. And that's how lopsided this system is right now. Okay, so let's get in a couple headlines real quick. Let me give it to you straight. So we have Powell speech preview. Will the Fed chair signal 2 more rate cuts? Says Fed Chair Powell will speak on policy and economic outlook on Tuesday. It says Marcus Wiley expect the Fed to cut the policy rate twice more this year. So literally, if the markets, those that are looking ahead, anticipate rate cuts, they're positioning for it now. If Jerome Powell comes out and says something different, hints at CPI is up, inflation is a concern, the job market is not where it need to be, we may not be able to do it right now. Whoo, you talk about a sell-off. Magnificent Seven go deeper red. Bitcoin gonna drop to about a 99,000. Gold and silver gonna drop maybe 1-2% at best, but it's gonna recover quick, and it's gonna get real ugly out here. And this administration will need to pick up that phone and tweet out something promising. So this is how crazy things are, man. That's why in a world where you have so many distractions and so many perceived options, it's just nothing better than, I guess, sitting back in a sense in the physical, realizing where things have to go because the world, technology, markets really can't move unless you got something physical, tangible in your hands that makes all this run. And that's where it's less concern for those that are positioned in metals than there are for those in the crypto space because the crypto space is built upon hope and hype that it will be unstoppable, that the liquidity will come, that the institutions will continue to adopt it. Michael Saylor will tweet every other hour in. So with gold and silver, I don't have to even mention it. because the central banks out west or out east and all the oligarchy families that already have, loaded up their vaults, they're the ones just creating a lot of the panic, because the retail literally is not even in it yet. That's why silver is $50 silver. Come on now, it's peanuts, because your cousins aren't even talking about it yet. You know what I'm saying? Wait till they start talking about it. And so I got some projections of what the prices would be had it not been for the contracts and things like that. So okay, so let me just stop ranting. Give it to you straight. So let's get into some more headlines. So this is what the headlines is trying to tell us right here. So you got the whole debasement trade narrative that has been presented to us by the mainstream media. They call it the debasement trade, and actually it's just a race to safety, race to something true, tried, and tested. It's not even a trade; it's just a redemption. You got the global redemption is probably what it's going to be called, where people are realizing fiat is a sham and they're getting rid of fiat and doing what it was supposed to do, which is these things were always meant to be redeemed. They're notes, they're receipts to real tangible things. People forgot that, but as people find out about it, we're going to experiencing the global redemption trade is what it's going to be. But real quick here, global bonds rally as fresh trade tensions send investors flocking to safety, and so that's why I showed you the 10-year bonds there, because this narrative here, people are flocking to safety, i.e., debt instruments. And so here it says risk-off sentiment has permeated markets after U.S. Donald Trump said he would impose new tariffs on Chinese goods from November. It says other safe haven assets, including gold and Swiss franc, also moved higher on Tuesday as stocks sold off. And then we have just, if you look at the narratives that are being given to us right now. So if I just give you, this is what's happening on mainstream news. So you got over here, it says Jamie Dimon says auto company bankruptcies reveal early signs of excess in corporate lending. You think people are financing things they really can't afford, and governments are literally, or manufacturers are up to their wazoo and taking losses, trying to provide rebates and all types of ways to get people to buy them cars. SP 500 falls again after one-day respite as China trade tensions persist. Bessent tells the FT that struggling China wants to pull everybody else down with them. Okay. China targets 5 U.S. subsidiaries of South Korea's Hanwha Ocean, sending shares down 8%. So, yeah, like all this, it's entertaining. All this is entertaining. But once again, they won't tell you the activities happening when it comes to those contracts that has kept gold and silver at all-time lows forever, and the concerns that they're having on getting physical right now as we speak. And that's why 5350 silver. Why wouldn't Bessent talk about that? Or why wouldn't the mainstream media talk about that continuous all-time high in silver? Because they can't. Okay, so let's get into it straight. Let's get into it straight, my good people. Let's get into it. So I bookmarked a lot of things. I bookmarked a lot of things, and I'm going to just go through them according to the different narratives. And so let me give it to you. Let me give you this one. So silver is the primary subject matter, I believe, or will be, can be, should be. And so I bookmarked this. So let me just give it to you this right here. It says here, this is coming from Baye. I'm not even going to butcher his name, but he does a good job of sharing information directly translated from inside mainland China. And so it says here, Shubai's Market, largest online trading platform, Rongtong Gold, has stopped selling silver sheets. It says China's largest e-commerce, JD.com, has almost all merchants taking down raw silver. Only one is for sale with a price of $108.25 an ounce. So literally, whatever the distributors are of silver in Asia, and the different ways that they're doing business in the silver industry, there's a difference between the paper price, the physical price, and the retail, I buy it on your website price. And so literally based upon this post here, doing those conversions there, which I take it he has done, think about this right now. For those that are willing to sell in Asia, these bars, what it's going for per ounce to get these bars, or these sheets as they call them, it's $108.25. That's what he's telling us. And he says the small raw bar is $128 an ounce. So think about that. And we're led to believe that the price over here is $51.82. That's what we're led to believe. But the physical scramble over there tells us it's something different. Okay. And so let me give you some more silver narrative. So let me give you some more silver narratives that really show you some of the scramble activity behind the scenes. So here we have some more commentary from TF Meadows. It says, here you are, overnight slam in London. Silver falls early, nearly $4 in an hour. So this is that early morning activity on our side of what we witnessed. So once again, the great scramble is on to get physical, to supply the LBMA with as much physical as possible. How are they going to do it? They're going to figure out a way, I'm sure, but it won't work for long because literally this scramble to get physical, 1,000-ounce bars, is for the sake of trying to cover up some of their paper issues. And then they're not going to be able to unravel the issues. They're only going to try to get themselves out of trouble so that they don't take much of a fiat cash blunt or blow rather when they have to cover some of the spreads there for the market manipulation that they caused. So they're trying to save a couple billion, ultimately is what it's about. So here's another narrative here from Eric Young. It says the bankers are not trying to shake retail out of their silver coins, etc. The silver is not in the correct format. It says the bankers are trying to shake the big fishes who are holding 1,000 troy ounce silver bars at the COMEX eligible and register vaults to sell them the 1,000 troy ounce silver bars for cheap via the COMEX silver futures. It says all this is so that bankers can ship these 1,000 troy ounce silver bars back to the LBMA to cover their leveraged short positions. So when you borrow intentionally to short, and then they continue to create these fake contracts that presents this illusion that there's actual silver in these vaults, you run into problems. And I think this has a lot to do with the idea that this methodology has worked so long for several decades and it's coming to a halt now, or being exposed as criminal, as the Shanghai Futures Exchange and everything happening in that region exposes the true spot physical price of delivery. And so according to what they're doing in mainland China, if it's $128 an ounce right now, and you have more and more people shutting off the buy now button, and so it's like, okay, they obviously know that that price is too low. That's just what someone is willing to sell it for as of now. But eventually, as that one company that the gentleman was referring to, as they continue to receive more of a influx of buyers at that rate, that too will be an indication that it's still too cheap. $128 is still too cheap, given that the physical is not as plentiful as they would need it to be. So this then leads to, just out of sheer speculation, somebody did some math. Let me grab this math here that someone did on X that I grabbed. And it was just something to just ponder, something just to consider. And also consider from the standpoint, if you are a holder of 1 or 2 ounces, 3 ounces, 4 ounces, just keep it real small. If you got a couple ounces in your hand, if we were to get to some type of realistic price of what all these futures contracts, if they had to settle physical right now, what would be the USD amount that a person would need to bring forth in order to get that actual physical ounce out of the vault, if it was there? But they don't have the type of metal to settle the contract, so we don't. That's why things gonna get ugly. And you better believe, if the bullion banks got to get too far behind and they can't manipulate in any form or fashion, they can't cover any of their losses, they're gonna pass the losses that they can't cover on to the markets. And you better bet Wall Street, you're going to have Jamie Dimon, Larry Fink, all those individuals that are part of this monetary matrix that we've been put in. They're not going to have their operations impacted by the manipulation that has been taking place with the big bullion banks. So they definitely going to point the blame at somebody. And then this could lead to like a sacrificial lamb. You know how during the great financial crisis, Lehman Brothers was chosen to be the sacrificial lamb, and then there was others that would have went down had there not been a government bailout. We're going to eventually get to that type of territory, I believe, where they're going to choose a bank as being the primary target to then run on that bank. Like the banks will probably turn against that particular bank, whatever it is, and then all mainstream media, all focus will be targeted on that bank, and they're going to use that excuse as a reason to cut, to juice, or the government, Besson and Trump, going to come up with another. They're going to go into the exchange stabilization fund like they did for Argentina with that $20 billion. And then they're going to literally come out with 20 or 30 billion to cover up some of the losses of that one bank. while making all the other banks draw upon that same liquidity pool like they did the last time, so that those losses can be absorbed by the government in a quasi bailout that they won't call a bailout, but they'll call it a emergency fund to keep the market stable, like Besson said he'll be willing to do at no cost. So this is what the silver linchpin being pulled can really expose our government, because they're in on it. Okay, so here's an interesting little post by somebody named The Dude. Don't even know him. He has 10,000 followers. He says he wears a tinfoil, so that's my type of guy, you know. So he takes it far and tries to reel it back in to make it make sense. And so here it says, so if the paper to silver ratio is 359 to 1, meaning there's 359 contracts per one single ounce, and the spot at that time when he did this was $52. So right now it's 51. So by the end of the day today, it's probably be 54, 55. But just for the sake of math, simplicity's sake, it says then does a price of physical silver being 359 paper contracts times that 1 ounce of 52, 51, whatever it is now, really equal 18,000 an ounce? And so that's just a question that he put out there for people to ponder. So literally, if you had to assign one of these instruments here to every one of these instruments here, and they had to do an even exchange, you would need perhaps 18,000 of these pieces of paper. And so that means, like, at that point, what would the gold to silver ratio be? Because that same thing applies to the gold side. Gold's futures for 1 gold ounce, what would that be? And that's where you get into figures. It's like, come on now, that's ludicrous. That's too tinfoilish. No, I don't know. You be the judge of that. But here's another little interesting narrative that's given about just, a possible price pretty soon. Here you have silver to reach $100 an ounce by 2026, and on record industrial demand, growing perception as a store of value. And so this here was posted on International Business Times, but it came out of, I think it came out of Reuters or Fortune. I'm not sure, but once again, interesting headline. So if they're talking about by next year is $100, right now it's 53, 51, 52. The way the momentum is trending and things are being pushed towards safety, come on now, $100, once again, that's still relatively low, but we'll just play with the numbers for now. But, think about $100. And so when you see silver and gold at these prices here, it's like, man, that's cheap compared to where things would have to go if every single unit was held accountable. So these are just things to consider that you won't hear people considering this from, Fox, NBC, NSBC, CNN. You know how it goes. So somebody got to be a fall guy. There will be a fall guy, that's for sure. They're gonna snitch on somebody. It says, Mike, I'm wearing a $25,000 gold jewelry. I feel like a white Denzel in Training Day. I hear you, man. Black Swan approaching at the rate of these swings and the seesaw action in metals, all in a scramble to try to get physical. I wouldn't hold my breath. And then this goes on to, this leads me to other things where you got the peace deal. So every mainstream news is calling Trump the peace president, stuff like that. But I'm like, I know, and I'm sure you would know, that there's not going to be peace, lasting, true, righteous justice, peace. This is just a temporary patch over, because the occupiers, those that, pretend to be and call themselves the chosen ones in the in the nation state of Israel, they don't want peace. They can't have peace because they're not finished accomplishing what they're trying to accomplish with that region. And so I saw somebody posted something interesting. Out of all the people that came to the table in this agreement for peace, I didn't actually look at this or verify this, but the person said, where's Israel at? Where's Netanyahu? Was he on the stage? Is his signature on that paper? And so once again, I other than seeing some posts, I didn't verify, validate, because I know it's smoke and mirrors, but I don't think Israel really agreed to peace. But once they get their 20 hostages back, you better believe it's back on and popping. They're gonna bomb the heck out of Gaza. They're gonna literally try to because they got what they want. They'll get their hostages back. Once they got their people back, they about to completely obliterate the Palestinian region. And then what? Then what? Trump will come out and say, "I'm very disappointed in Netanyahu. Bibi, I thought we had a deal." Now you know, for the sake of accomplishing a greater agenda, there's no amount of lives that are not worth sparing. I'm sorry to say that, but that's just how the enemy operates. Satan don't care about. Yeah, okay. So that's my thoughts on that. Be patient. You'll see. But okay, so we got to talk about Bitcoin. We got to talk about Bitcoin because there's speculation out. So we got the Bitcoin knots and Bitcoin core. Core has been validated, and it looks like the occupiers and the those that captured Bitcoin have won because people have chosen. Says according to Luke Dasher's estimates, core 30 node count is now above 800, and knots the percentage just fell below 13%. So more people are going with core. Which core they basically just told the Bitcoin people that we control the updates, we control the firmware, we're gonna give you what we want, and we want big blocks to put garbage in it. The garbage is somebody else's asset. One of the corporations that bought the core group, they got plans. They're gonna put some type of tokenization, some type of profit making product inside those digital space, and so that's why they did that. And so they're telling us that core belongs to the people who run the developers. And so literally the truth is coming out. So price goes up, sure, when they're ready. Come on now. Okay, so that's just one little narrative, but I didn't want to touch on this. So here is some other interesting news that's going to be worth paying attention to, because you got to ask yourself a question: why are Bitcoin moving from the U.S. government's wallets? The U.S. government transfers 667 Bitcoin worth 574 million to a new wallet. What's happening? We're gonna find out. Believe me, they're not buying more right now. And on top of that, when people find out why they're buying and what they're buying it for, you're gonna wish you would have prayed that the government would have never gotten Bitcoin. That's just my 2 cents. And here's something else that I hinted at on Saturday's live stream, when I said whoever's closest to the administration, meaning Donald Trump being the focal point, he's just a spokesman. Whoever's in his ear was the one to benefit the most. And it looks like those that were in his ear or close to the whispers happen to be, perhaps, these are allegations, his children. Doesn't surprise me one bit, because I said pay attention to World Liberty Financial. So here's something just posted by the Bitcoin community. It says, investigations into the hyperliquid whale who shorted the market just before Trump's tariff announcements allegedly point to the World Liberty Financial team for leaking the information. And so once again, these individuals here are the face of this company that uses the Trump name to benefit themselves. And it happens to be Eric Trump, Donald Trump Jr., who are part of the advisory board and the ones that probably knew what was coming and benefited the most on top of others. But they're not the only ones. But my point is, if this is true, the Democrats going to run with this. They're going to cause more chaos in this government shutdown of saying special favor. So if this is true, because Bitcoin and the digital asset space is an unregulated area, it's not illegal, but it is a conflict of interest, and it is somewhat treasonous in a sense that you're using this technology to benefit yourself and your children, your family, and your legacy first and foremost, while others are getting wrecked. So either you get in with the criminality or you be exposed. That's what it's going to boil down to. And I believe the Democrats are going to jump on this, and they're going to just look to impeach him next week, and it's got to get ugly. And this is not good for the Bitcoin perception. So this will be very negative for the digital asset space. So expect another major drawdown once they use this as a way to shake out more hands, because Bitcoin has to succeed, because that's where everything's being centered towards. So it's going to be another buying opportunity for the kids, is what I'm saying. So, could they have done this intentionally so that they could be exposed, so that they could cause a real drawdown beyond just a daddy's tweet? Because this could be a congressional situation where they bring some people in and try to rip into them as if they didn't get the questions beforehand, and Bitcoin goes from 111 down to 95, and then World Liberty Financial buys up more. So they turned this into a market manipulation investment tool. But it's funny, man. This is funny. This is the world we live in, and it's only going to become more of a crap show in the days ahead, because We ain't seen nothing yet. So anyway, and on another note, this is something that I'll let you guys go do your investigative work on this, but people are posting this. You got the mic behind Donald Trump is turned on. You got the Indonesian president talking, and apparently, I tried to listen to it. I couldn't hear it, but more people are sharing this video saying that the Indonesian president is talking to Donald Trump about needing to connect with Donald's sons so that they can work out some things. And if that is true, more of a reason for what the Democrats are going to bring forth as far as allegations on corruption, criminality, treason, da 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 da. Very negative information for the digital asset space, but gold and silver will benefit from it. So just as a let you know, but go look on X and try to see if you can hear anything in reference to this possible backdoor deal that the Indonesian president is trying to make with the Trump boys. But this is the world. Anyway, in the meantime, get physical, stay prayed up, love, live, laugh, learn, enjoy the day, do the best you can. And it says, so it said, this is funny. It says, drain the swamp or keep saying alligator Alcatraz. Believe me, there's no swamp being drained. There's no deep state exposure. There's nobody going to jail. Everybody just who's in on this, they're going to get richer like it always goes. This is the system, people. If you thought other words, you got suckered again.